My name is Jeremy Wade. I'm a biologist and extreme angler. I've battled with the most dangerous freshwater fish on Earth. From rays wielding 10-inch barbs to assassins that strip flesh from bone. But for me, the most frightening monsters are the ones that lurk unseen, then drag unsuspecting victims down to their deaths. I've heard of one river in southern Africa where the death toll is devastatingly high. The Zambezi. Tales abound of unexplained deaths. From fishermen being dragged under to babies being snatched from their mothers. Locals say a monster is lurking here. But what kind of beast could it really be?
He must have been 14, 15 feet long.
There's only one way to find out. By taking on a river I've never fished before, to hunt down and uncover the Zambezi's invisible executioner. The Congo and Zambezi rivers both originate from the same country in Africa, Zambia. Now, if the Congo can support possibly the fiercest river monster I've caught...
Ah, those teeth!
I've every reason to suspect the Zambezi could hold a river monster of its own. This is new territory for me, and gathering intelligence from this sparsely populated region isn't easy. The Zambezi claims countless victims on its 1,600-mile journey to the Indian Ocean. Most of the fatalities are blamed on crocodiles and hippos, or accidental drownings in waterfalls and rapids. But along one stretch of the river, where it forms the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, there have been deaths that can't be explained away. One recent story concerns an experienced fisherman who disappeared in this gorge. Some say he was swept away by the current, others that he was pulled in by a giant fish. From experience, I have no doubt that this river could harbour such a fish, but proving it will be another matter. Travelling down the Zambezi is going to be dangerous. In places, towering gorges squeeze the river into mile after mile of boat-crushing rapids. I'm not taking them on lightly, but this is the only way to find out what's in the water.
Somewhere down there is something that has pulled fishermen under the water to their deaths. And now that I'm seeing this river myself for the first time, I'm starting to have very, very mixed feelings about going to have a closer look.
The thundering rapids of the Batoka Gorge have claimed many lives. Yet grinding poverty means many fishermen have no choice but to try their luck here. 2 years ago, 2 Zimbabwean brothers were fishing in the gorge when one unexpectedly disappeared. Was it an accident, or was something more sinister at work? Before I can even start my investigation, I first have to contend with the rapids. The rapids aren't the only dangers fishermen face in the gorge. Spray makes the banks treacherous, and rocks can hurtle down the cliffs without warning. But the only way to find out what creatures call this place home is to literally test the water.
This is horrendously deep. It's only just touched the bottom. The lime is just sinking for, I don't know, it felt like about half a minute. It's very, very deep here.
So deep, a monster fish could easily hide out. without being detected.
This has to be some of the most dramatic scenery I've ever fished in. And as an angler, of course, what you're always aware of is the fact that that continues under the surface. But the thing really here is that this is completely unfamiliar to me, and the only way I'm going to learn about this river is by just getting a bait in a variety of different places and just gradually building up a picture of what the geography is like under the water, and also what the fish life is like under the water.
If you believe the deeper the water, the bigger the fish, then I'm in line for something pretty huge. Well, so much for the idea that in the deep water, the very deep water, you're always going to find very big fish. This has come out of maybe 70, 80, 90 feet of water. Perhaps this is the exception that proves the rule. Brown squeaker. It's a small catfish that makes sounds by moving its spiny fins. It can give you a nasty stab, but it's no manhunter. If a fish is responsible for unexplained drownings here, then it would have to be both strong enough to survive the rapids and big enough to pull in a man. Yet somehow it has remained hidden from sight. To this day, a fisherman called Jaconia is still unsure how his brother disappeared. 2 years ago, they set out in opposite directions to fish the gorge, planning to meet up later at their camp. Only Jaconia returned. When you came back to the camp, your brother didn't come.
I wanted to look for him. So I found the shoes and his trousers.
So shoes and trousers, and that was all.
Found the line.
Oh, you found the line?
Inside the hole.
Ah, and the line was okay.
So I take mine and throw it to that line.
Right.
To take it out. So that is the thing they showed me. This guy they call with water.
Did you get the hook back?
And I take the line out. No hook.
The absence of a hook makes me suspicious. Hooks don't just fall off. Perhaps something ripped it off the line. Further downstream, a croc would be the prime candidate, but they avoid rapids. So I asked Jaconia if there are any big fish in the river. How big do they grow? And he says there are. So this...
Some of it is like me.
Same size as you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big like this.
That's the body?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long to get a big one? How long to bring?
To bring it is almost 1 hour, 30 minutes.
1 hour, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Human beings are out of their element in water. From my own experiments, I've shown that even a fish a third of my weight could drag me under. The beast Jaconia is describing easily outstrips that. Many languages are spoken in these former British territories, but Jaconia can't give me the fish's English name. Yeah. So this big fish, what does it look like?
It looks like a snake.
My first real clue, a snake-like fish that grows to the size of a man. But where is it hiding? I've tried a deep pool, but Jaconia thinks the turbulent margins on the edge of the white water hold bigger predators. This is where anything overpowered by the rapids is thrown out, dazed and confused, delivered right to the jaws of any waiting predator. There are no second chances for me with these waters either. I need to get my strategy right first time. If I fall in the river, which I don't want to do, but it is a possibility, at least we got an eddy here, we got a slack. I can come into slack water, and there's a beach over there. There's some possible places to land fish here. Might be a bit of a scramble, but it's doable. At least I've thought about it. The last thing you want is to have a fish on, you get it in close, and then what do? How do I land it? And you end up doing something potentially dangerous.
It makes me wonder what kind of fish survives conditions as tough as these. Is this the home of Jaconia's snake-like giant?
Fish on. It's a strong fish.
Whatever this is, it's not giving in without a fight.
Oh, I think it's off. Oh, no, no, no.
The Zambezi charges through the heart of southern Africa. Every year, people fall victim to its untamed waters. Some of these tragedies are the work of the usual suspects: Crocs, hippos, and bone-crushing rapids. But I think a sinister fish might also be at work here. And if it can survive these relentlessly churning waters, then it has to be a seriously powerful beast.
Fish on. It's a strong fish, this.
I'm not just fighting the fish, but the power of the rapids too.
Oh, I think it's off. Oh, no, no, no.
I've got to get it into calmer water, or I might lose it.
Tigerfish. I mean, toothy, strong fish, powerful predator. Fairly fragile out of the water. Want to get it back soon.
Interlocking dagger-like teeth make short work of prey, and a powerful muscular body propels it like lightning. An even more horrific cousin rules Africa's other monster river, the Congo. The Goliath tigerfish is the big daddy of them all. This creature stands accused of slicing children virtually in half. The Zambezi's tigerfish has the razor-sharp weaponry of a killer. But does it fit Jaconia's description of an invisible executioner capable of killing his brother?
Grows quite big, but not as big as the animal I've been hearing about. And also, it's not really serpentine. But it just goes to show that you do get fish living in some really crazy water. It's a good sign. But I don't think I'm any nearer at the moment the fish that I'm after.
I fished the rapids for another day, but no more bites. I need to rethink my strategy. I need to understand exactly how the victim came face to face with his killer. Jaconia has a nephew who his brother taught to fish. I'm hoping he can shed some more light on the mystery.
My uncles, he went fishing. Put the line to his leg, then he went to sleep.
So he put the line around his foot so that he could go to sleep or rest, and that would let him know when there was a fish on.
Yeah. Catch the big fish. I think they just put it on the water.
Something very big came along and actually pulled him into the water.
Yeah, in the water. They find the boat after 5 days. He find further down.
So he drowned?
Yeah, he drowned.
Melvin is convinced the killer was a fish, for the same reason that roused my suspicions, the missing hook from the handline. And does anybody have any idea what kind of fish this could have been?
I think maybe Solomon fish, the Solomon fish.
The what fish?
Solomon fish. Looks like python snake.
So it looks a bit like a snake?
Yeah, like python snake.
It's not a name I recognize, but it's the second time the potential killer has been described as a snake-like fish. The obvious candidate would be an eel, but I don't know any African eels strong enough to pull in a grown man. This sounds like something else. Then my attention is drawn to the serpentine talisman around Melvin's neck.
What is that exactly?
It's Nyami Nyami. This is the Zambezi River god.
Right.
Yeah.
The god of the Zambezi. And,
Yes.
and what exactly is Nyami Nyami? What kind of creature?
It seems like a fish and snake. I believe this when you go on the river.
Mhm.
They just look after me.
And do other fishermen also wear this?
Yeah, some of the fishermen, yeah.
And do you think if I'm going on the river, would it be a good idea if I had one?
Yes.
Wearing the amulet is a symbol of respect, rather than a guarantee of safety. According to legend, the half-snake, half-fish god exacts his vengeance whenever he feels fit, and he's blamed for many drownings. Locals believe the god rules the entire length of the Zambezi, and anyone taken to the river is wise to appease him. But whether this amulet will protect me, I have no way of knowing.
So clearly the river is very dangerous, and there are cases of fishermen being pulled under the water by big fish. The name was not something I recognised, but it's described as something that's a bit snake-like. And curiously, this is also the description given to Nyami Nyami. I wonder if this means that there is a link, or is it just a coincidence?
Locals believe the river god has his lair 250 miles downriver, in a flooded gorge called Kariba, another place where fishermen have disappeared. It's time to follow the Zambezi's relentless course downstream. This stretch of the Zambezi has undergone a massive transformation. 50 years ago, the river was dammed at Kariba to generate electricity for a booming mining industry. It was an unprecedented feat of engineering on a scale never before seen in this forgotten corner of Africa. But unimaginable freak floods threatened to destroy the dam before it was finished. The locals attributed these catastrophic events to the river god Nyami Nyami, angered by the attempt to tame the Zambezi. But in the end, the dam prevailed. At the time, it created the largest man-made lake in the world. Now stocked with huge numbers of small commercial fish, perhaps this vast deep lake has provided sanctuary to an ancient snake-like predator. A predator so terrifying it inspired belief in a river monster god.
The reason I've come here is because this is where Nyami Nyami is said to live. The only thing is, after the construction of the dam, the monster or the fish which gave rise to the legend could be living under 400 feet of water, so it looks like I might have my work cut out.
Whether or not the dam upset Nyami Nyami, there's no question it upset the natural forces in the region. Erratic winds rise and fall over the lake without warning. I'm within a few miles of my destination, but the weather is getting worse.
The wind's up and there's quite a few waves on the water. The thing is, Lake Kariba's so massive that it's changed the climate locally. You get these storms coming up, we've had lightning flashing, so the wise thing is to head for dry land.
But the headwind is too strong. There's no way I'm going to make it to Kariba town tonight. Now, I just need to find any safe port in a storm. Right, this isn't exactly what I was wanting to do. The boat is actually rocking from side to side. There's also lots of rocks, and you know, one thing we don't want to be doing is hitting any rocks in this boat. What is the largest animal the Zambezi River has dragged over the Victoria Falls? Find out after this. Before the break, I asked, what is the largest animal the Zambezi River has dragged over the Victoria Falls? The answer is an adult African elephant. I'm on a mission in the wild heart of southern Africa, to uncover a killer that's dragging fishermen to the bottom of the Zambezi River. But just as I'm about to arrive at another attack site, nature turns against me. We're now navigating at night. The boat's been sort of tipping backwards and forwards. It's head to the nearest safe shore or sink.
There is a safe landfall here. We hope there is anyway.
I have to say it's very much of a relief to be on dry land, although I'm not exactly sure where we are. Somewhere on the shore of Lake Kariba. Luckily, a miraculous little bit of sand as opposed to some of the rocks that were out there, which were worryingly close. But, at some point, very glad and very lucky to be safely ashore. The next day, Lake Kariba is dead calm, as if nothing happened. But I now understand a little more about the threats facing local fishermen here.
Well, the lake's showing its normal face once again today, and it makes me appreciate perhaps that if you lived here and you're in the habit of going out on the water, probably in a smaller boat, and you experience something like that, well, the idea of an angry water god doesn't seem totally far-fetched.
But I have to stay focused on facts if I'm to uncover the Zambezi's invisible executioner. I'm not interested in the commercial fish in the lake. I need to tap into the knowledge of the people who used to live along the Kariba Gorge before it was flooded in the late 1950s. They were relocated to resettlement villages, some more than 100 miles inland. Patrick is one of the few elders who remembers life on the river before the dam.
They didn't want to come here, they were forced to come here. Some people resisted, and it sounds like people even, died as a result of resistance. Before, living in this sort of dry area, they were living beside the banks of the Zambezi, a place called Matongo. There were lots of different types of fish, so as well as growing food, there was always the river there to provide fish from time to time. Are there any very big fish in the river, any fish that are dangerous to people? There's one fish in particular, muzunda. Apparently this is a very, very strong fish. If you're in the canoe, you've got to go with it. You don't pull when it is pulling. If you do it right, you eventually tire it out, you get it to the side of the river and you spear it. You get it wrong, and that fish is going to flip your canoe, pull you into the water. Maybe nobody will ever see you again.
But that's not all. Patrick goes on to tell me something even more horrifying. The fish he calls mazunda has developed a taste for human flesh. Stories tell of women going down to the river to do the wash and sitting their toddlers in the shallows to keep cool. They don't know if it's the noise, the vibrations, or even the scent of the soap in the water. But sometimes it draws a mazunda in.
It's got a big head, big mouth, the back end like a snake. If there's a baby in the water, this fish can just take it in one mouthful, and possibly even a small person. So this is this, by the sounds of it, is the big fish that's in the river here.
Muzunda.
Well, I'm in no doubt now that there is a large, potentially dangerous fish in this river, and people have been describing it to me, telling me names. Do those names refer to different creatures, different fish, or is everybody talking about the same thing?
Back at the lake, I look for mazunda at the fish market.
We don't have
You don't have it here?
Yes.
But one of the fishermen does know of them.
Very, very few.
Yeah.
Some I even knew.
That
is actually the thickness of the body.
He tells me a story of a brutal encounter 20 years ago when a South African tourist made the mistake of taking on a Mazunda at the base of the Kariba Dam. I'm travelling down the Zambezi on the trail of a monster that drags its victims into the murky depths. But its exact identity is shrouded in confusion and misinformation.
Musunda.
Solomon fish. Solomon fish, yeah.
Just when I'm giving up hope of ever pinning it down, I get a new lead on another attack. 20 years ago, at the foot of the Kariba Dam.
Okay.
A South African tourist took on more than he bargained for, fishing in waters that were strictly out of bounds. This handliner thought he could outmuscle a Mazunda. When the line was pulled from his hands, he made the mistake of securing it around his waist. Man-made dams often stir up stories of super-scaled river monsters. Deep, fish-filled lakes form above the dam wall, delivering a constant stream of food to the water below. What better place for a freak of nature to grow? But without an eyewitness, I'm skeptical. Until I learn of another man who had an encounter with a Mazunda at exactly the same place.
Big body underneath, and on top.
Vernon Bailey has lived in Zambia since the 1940s.
And a big.
But when he went into the water to hunt tigerfish, nothing had prepared him for what he would see.
Kariba Dam, snorkeling and spearfishing below the dam wall. And that was in 1969. As I was swimming up, this submarine-looking thing came past. Very close. It just gave me a big eyeball and just kept moving on in dead silence. He must have been 14, 15 feet long, and I reckon between 200 and 250 pounds. That thing could swallow me without a question.
But what exactly was that thing? What is the real identity of the Mazunda?
Vundu, V-U-N-D-U.
Can you describe what it looks like?
It's a species of barbel. It's one of the catfish, but it grows exceptionally big.
Known by a multitude of names, the vundu is the largest freshwater fish in southern Africa. This top predator uses its extra long barbels to detect chemical traces of its prey in the water. And the broad fins fringing its muscular serpentine body give it supercharged power. If Vernon's estimate is right, his giant was at least twice the size of the accepted maximum for the species. Is this possible? Unlike land animals, fish are largely exempt from the law of gravity. With bodies supported by water and plentiful food, below dams for example, a phenomenon called indeterminate growth can supersize some fish into giants. But supposing Vernon's giant was a one-off, would a normal-sized vundu have the strength to pull in a man?
Big vundu is more than capable of doing that.
Strength coupled with a mouth big enough to swallow a baby whole.
It can only be the vundu.
Every year, Vernon revisits the dam and claims he can still see the shapes of vundu in the water below. There's now only one place for me to go.
This road that I'm on is the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, but it sits on top of this structure that causes the Zambezi to back up for almost 200 miles. And the difference in height between the surface here and the river surface there is about 300 feet.
But access down there is forbidden.
However, the authorities have agreed to forward my request to the head office in the capital, Lusaka. So frustrating to hear that there are potentially giant fish there, but I can't get down to the water. I can see the water, but I can't get there. Well, not for now anyway. It'll take days, maybe weeks, for a decision on whether I can fish here. Time I just don't have. But there is one other option. There's a part of the Zambezi that remains virtually untouched. The lower Zambezi, on the border with Mozambique, where temperatures top 120 degrees. Perhaps I can find my river monster there. At a former slave town called Luangwa, I try to find someone to take me to the remotest parts of the river. This river here? Yeah? A boatman called Tafilia agrees. But as we draw near to a prime fishing spot, he's reluctant to get too close. Crocodiles have slaughtered 13 people in this village in the last year alone, including a chief and his wife. What's worse, Tafilia tells me Vundu have pulled fishermen into the croc-infested waters. If you're in a canoe, does it pull the canoe?
Most of the wound when you're hooking, always pulling down. So sometimes you find maybe if your canoe has got no balance, sometimes it can go down. So what we do, when we see those dangers, we cut the line. The biggest vundu which I've seen. The same like that.
Right.
Yes.
According to Tafilia, there are giants still left in this remote corner of Africa. But once again, I'm operating in unfamiliar territory. I'm in a nice fishing spot here. The only problem is this hippo, most of them, they disappear when the boat's around. This one seems to be quite curious. So it's quite disconcerting to think that there are other things a lot bigger than me with prior claim to this place. And hippos kill more humans in Africa than any other large animal. Yeah, that is a fish on. Is this, at last, the Vundu? I've travelled hundreds of miles down the Zambezi in search of a killer from the deep. The Vundu. A fish with legendary strength. A diver once witnessed a giant that dwarfed him below the Kariba Dam. I've applied for permission to fish there, but while I wait for a decision, I've headed to the untouched lower Zambezi, where I'm told Vundu prowl the croc-infested waters. On this river, I'm never alone for long. That is a fish on. Might just look at how the teeth are, how the hook is. Oh, good net, good, excellent. Fantastic. Oh. It seems a fearsome lineup of predators stalks this part of the river too. Tigerfish as well as Vundu. Ooh. These things, one minute the lion is just hanging limp and the next minute it's screaming out. Lovely fish. It's not the one I'm it's not the fish I'm after though. What I want to do is hold it in the water and let it recover. But I've got to remember there's crocs in here. Got to think of my own safety as well. But I think it's about ready to go. I was thinking then, somewhat selfishly, that if a croc comes along, it's more likely to go for the fish than my arm, hopefully. But anyway, it's gone. I'm not sitting here for 5 or 10 minutes waiting for that fish to recover. It's a fish, it's good to see a fish, but the one I'm after is just more elusive even than that. Typically at this point, I would try to fish for my target at night. But here the crocs are man-eaters. Fishing in the dark would be suicide. We should head back to camp. But then I spot a gruesome opportunity, seemingly too good to miss. A dead hippo. My angler's instinct is saying, get all this in the water and get a real scent trail going. But just the act of dragging these bits a few yards into the water, that could turn me into bait, because it's not just possibly vundu that will smell the scent, but the crocodiles as well. This carcass will be a magnet for scavengers after dark. So I cast a handline into the scent stream and leave it for the night in the hope of hooking a vundu. I'll have my answer one way or another in the morning. Everything's gone. The pelvic girdle that was up the bank, but the head's just disappeared. Something's dragged it into the water. The hyena and crocodile tracks show why it would be suicide to fish these banks after dark. But has anything cleaned up the bait on the handline? Feels stuck on something. Yeah, other places, if the line's snagged fairly close to the side, I might jump in and free it. But here would not be a good idea at all. Even standing actually this close to the bank is somewhat risky. But something has managed to dodge the crocs. A sharp-toothed catfish, a smaller cousin of the vundu that shares a similar body shape. The whole body is muscle. It's quite serpentine. There's a lot of surface area to act against the water. Catfish use their sensitive barbels to sniff out prey in murky water, and it's surprising what can attract them. In the Congo, I used the locals' favourite bait, cubes of soap. Could this explain the stories of attacks on babies? As I continue my hunt for the vundu, I get surprising news from the Zambian authorities. I've been granted permission to fish below the dam. This is the first time ever it's been officially allowed. But I have only one shot, one day. I have to get back now. Finally, it's my turn to confront whatever lurks in the churning depths below the Kariba Dam. The clock is ticking and there's no access to boats. I'm casting into a pool 500 feet wide and said to be 300 feet deep. Fish on. This is my last chance to uncover the Zambezi's invisible executioner. I've travelled 500 miles along the Zambezi on the hunt for a killer catfish called the vundu.
That's the fish on. I just want to let the other line. I'm just going to wait till it comes this way.
Its instinct is to pull down towards the bottom of this 300-foot pool.
I'm going to get the other line. I'm going to run along the bank there. That's a vundu. What a fish and what a place to catch it in. Could be Crocs here. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to pull it. Just looking for a good place to land, maybe up here. A big one of these would be capable of taking a baby.
And with a mouth this wide, it could suck in almost anything that passes.
It would be capable of pulling an unwary fisherman if that fisherman had the line wrapped around his toe or ankle.
Now that I've felt its power on the line, I have no doubt the vundu could have pulled Jaconia's brother into the river and drowned him. But could the river monster also be a river god?
That is the representation of Nyami Nyami. Now, I wonder if this is the creature that the water god, the water spirit, is based on.
Both possess powerful serpentine bodies. And perhaps the fangs on the traditional carvings are inspired by the extraordinary barbels that vundu use to hunt down prey. My journey along the relentless Zambezi has made me realize that any creature that can survive this unforgiving river for millennia has to be a force to be reckoned with.
Whether or not this is the beast behind Nyami Nyami, I mean, it certainly embodies the power of this river.